I think that's the important thing for anything we do with an entertainment, is that each day when we go into the theater, we're having fun, and that's all I can ask for. We're all weird in our own ways, and I think that's what I thrive off of being in this industry. You never know who you're going to meet. I know we all say that, but it is true.
Hello, and welcome to the Theatre Art Life podcast, sponsored by ClearCom, the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of ClearCom Intercom solutions. The Theatre Art Life podcast puts the spotlight on those who create live entertainment around the world, the culture creators and the backstage masters. My name is Anna Robb. Today we're talking with my friend and colleague Dillon Evans. Dillon is a stage manager from Southern California and now resides in Las Vegas. Currently he's a show caller at Awakening, a $120 million USD spectacle at the Wynn in Las Vegas. Before creating Awakening in 2022, Dillon lived outside of the USA for 6 years of his career. Most recently, he was a senior stage manager in operations for Expo 2020 Dubai, working on thousands of shows with performers, artists, and musicians from around the globe. Prior, he was a show caller for the House of Dancing Water in Macau and a stage manager with the Mainland China tour of Cavalia. Additional work includes Cirque du Soleil, Five Currents, Thinkwell Group, MTV Television Networks, Walking with Dinosaurs, and the Old Globe Theatre. Dillon received his bachelors in stage management from the California Institute of the Arts. Dillon, welcome to the show.
Hi, Anna. Good to be with you. I'm happy to be here.
So glad to finally have you on our podcast because
Me too.
We always love a stage manager that's been around the world and back again. So I want to start with first, what was it like to return to the USA after being abroad for 6 years?
Boy, coming back here was actually really tough. I mean, it was harder than I wanted it to be. You know, moving abroad, I ended up loving it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And getting to live in Hong Kong and Macau and becoming friends with you and many other people I met along the way, and just kind of having that come to an abrupt end with COVID. One important thing, though, that's been really cool about moving back to the U.S. is that being here in Las Vegas, I'm with a lot of people who were in the same situation as me. So there was actually a show caller from House of Dancing Water, Robert Mills, who he left house before I was there, as I had just started there. And then we worked together at Expo randomly. And then he's here with Matt Apple by Cirque du Soleil. And we're roommates here. So we were roommates in 3 different countries. And now we're back here, which has been nice to have someone to kind of, bounce off my adjustments into the States. And having a lot of performers from Macau and Dubai now being here in Nevada has been a really good surprise.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the international work of sort of the arena that you've been working with is a very small universe, right? And a lot of them have ended up in Vegas throughout the COVID period.
Yeah, which has made it fun for me. I've really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, amazing. So let's start with where you are now. You're at Awakening. And for those, it's relatively a new show. So for those who don't know about this show in Las Vegas, can you tell us a little bit of details about that?
Yeah, so Awakening is a brand new production opened by the Wynn Las Vegas, which is a large casino on the main Las Vegas Strip. And they're well known for having a variety of shows and entertainment at the property since they opened years ago. And during COVID, they decided to put $120 million into a brand new show and pulling together some incredible creative minds to really kind of push the limits of creative technology and artistry and see what they could do with that. Our main producers, we had Bernie Human, Michael Curry, and Baz Halpin. Baz Halpin's a pretty well-known director for a lot of the large artists around Taylor Swift. He's done a lot of other big shows for celebrities like Katy Perry's residency and stuff. And those 3 people came together to make this new show that is quite different than what we have already here in Vegas. Vegas shows have been really well known for a lot of circus and athlete type of performances. While with us, it's primarily dance, and we pulled in some incredible dancers that come with different backgrounds that you wouldn't usually see. We have bone breakers and crumpers and voguers and a lot of hip hop performers that are showing their style of dance that isn't usually put into a spectacle type show. And the show opened in November, and we started creation last April, and it's doing really well. We're having a great time. It's kept me busy, and the cast is sure having fun. And I think that's the important thing for anything we do with an entertainment, is that each day when we go into the theater, we're having fun, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the creation like with that kind of group of people as opposed to a bunch of circus acrobats?
Great question, actually. My boss, Jennifer Cook, when I was starting, she was like, "Hey, you're going to be working with people that may not have been on a stage before, or performers that may not even know what a stage manager is." And I remember the first couple of weeks we were offsite for the first few months of creation in April 2022 when we started at a warehouse. And I remember just one day during lunch, I was sitting down with some performers, and I was asking them about their history, and a lot of them had amazing music videos they were part of, and Super Bowl halftime shows, and working for Beyonce at Coachella. And I was like, "Oh, like, have you ever done a big show like this?" And they hadn't, and kind of getting to realize they didn't know what a stage manager was, and kind of getting to explain what I did as well. It wasn't just me learning about what they've done, but they also found interest in what we do and how my job impacts them and can help them on a daily basis.
Amazing. And so what was their onboarding like when they hit the theatre? That must have been an experience for them, because usually you jump on a stage in Beyonce and it's very quick, right? And
Yeah, this is a long process. I mean, we were in creation from April through November 2020. That's a long time. 6 days a week. Everybody put in a lot of hours and effort into the show. But for them to adjust into going in, it was also an adjustment for us. Because imagine going from a warehouse where you're working on, a concrete floor with some Marley to a $120 million moving stage. I've worked with automation, but I hadn't worked on that stage, right? I'm having to learn what's safe for me to be standing in certain areas, and the layout of the building, and figuring all that out in conjunction with the performers was an interesting challenge for us.
Yeah, I mean, having seen the show, the lift system is quite incredibly complex there in terms of its rotation, and it's in like a pie, plus it moves up and down, and there's multiple configurations. I can imagine all the safe edges that sit in that.
There are a lot of safe edges, that's for sure. The automation system is pretty cool to work with. We have an awesome automation team. One thing I applaud each member of that team for is they are always open for questions. I'm sure you've worked with people before that may not have the time to answer you, or may not be interested in kind of guiding you or helping you learn more. But this entire team, pretty much the whole show, but automation specifically, the operators will sit down with me and explain how cues are moving, explain why certain things can or cannot be done. And that's been really critical for my role as a show caller to understand, we haven't had a lot of issues yet moving forward. It's all new. And so as things happen, we're having to figure out in real time in front of an audience and how to solve it. And just having that support from the automation team has been great.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most challenging aspects of being a show caller for a show that is new, is there's no roadmap for what will go wrong, and you don't know what it is yet. And especially, it's kind of funny because in a theatrical sense, for those who do stage management in theatre, a show stop is very abnormal, where in this sort of world, it's very quite regular and normal. And as you work out the tweaks in the system and then how to overcome them. So have you been the person on the show call that's had to deal with a lot of that as it arises?
The team actually jokes that I'm not having a lot of issues during my show, so they're kind of just waiting to see when all that comes up. We were actually joking that last night. But how it worked for creation, we have 6 stage managers on our team. We have 1 on-call stage manager, and we had 1 PSM who was just there for creation. She came in during the creation phase and oversaw all of us. It was pretty much in once we moved into the theater space, she was in the house all the time to kind of manage the rehearsal and the cues, and actually calling things from that perspective, while all of us were running backstage and managing the performers and the schedule and the lineup and all that. But once she left, once opening night came, our PSM had left, and we had our GSM, Jennifer, and another stage manager named Aaron. Both of them in conjunction learned the show call, once opening night came. And the two of them were kind of just bouncing back and forth between the two of them. As issues would arise, they'd kind of figure out in real time what had to be done to solve it, whether it be pre-show or during show. And then I recently learned the call right before Christmas time from both of them, and now I'm the third caller. So we're kind of all just, as things change, and that's one thing, I was at House of Dancing Water where you were for years, and you created it, but I was there at the end of it, the end of my time there. And I kind of had the benefit of you guys having already gone through all those challenges you'd gone through with figuring out what to do during a certain element of a show stop. Now with me, Jen and Aaron are when things happen with them during their show, they'll give me suggestions on, hey, if this happens, you might want to consider this, or this might be helpful. And I'm doing the same thing with them now. So we're working really tightly. And also the stage managers who aren't calling yet, we are all trained callers. So all of them are coming up with great ideas in the office of how we can maneuver or navigate issues as they arise.
Yeah. Amazing. So reverse back to before this, you did get some work during the pandemic, which is kind of an unusual thing for a lot of stage managers. You ended up at Expo. So what did you do there?
Well, first of all, my other COVID job was actually teaching English in Hong Kong. So I made a fun little career out of that for a few months, and then ended up getting a great gig over at Expo 2020 Dubai, and absolutely loved that entire project. It was my first time doing a kind of a short-term contract on something. It was about a 7-month contract from September 2021 until March of 2022. And I was on a team of senior stage managers for a company called David Atkins Entertainment. They're from Australia. And we managed the daily entertainment for the entire park of Expo. And for those of you who don't know what Expo is, I know we've had a few other podcasts that have discussed it, but Expo is pretty much like, imagine Disneyland on steroids, just with a bunch of countries getting to showcase all of their amazing achievements and things they have going in the future. We had all the entertainment going on around that. So whether it be a marching band or a group of dancers at night, or a stage that had a country's individual performance that was visiting from somewhere in Africa or Asia, we managed all of that. And I was actually in the control section. There were 2 stage managers in the control offices, me and Riza Tate. Both of us would manage all of our shows as they went out each day. David Atkins, I think we produced, I could be wrong with this number, it was about 25,000 shows, I think, over the 6-month process. And we were keeping track of everything from audience counts to start times, stop times, weather issues, delays from presidents who were driving through the site. And I was managing all of that along with the team of control. And that was a great learning experience for me to kind of get my hands dipped into something else than just show calling. I was show calling an entire site of an event instead of just one particular show.
That sounds like a lot of fun, but also chaotic.
It was chaotic. I loved it, though. I'd do it in a heartbeat again.
That's amazing. I think there's so many stage managers that went over there and helped out with that event, and all of them talk about how amazing an experience is and unique, right? Like I think that's said, most people hang out in the theaters and the event spaces, but to go into that kind of show on steroids as a collective must have been an amazing energy.
It was. I mean, it was awesome. Just the scale of it all. And I missed it a lot. I mean, I'm glad I kind of was able to see as much as I did of it while I was there, and took advantage of being in Dubai. Got to see the city and meet the people, and absolutely loved it.
Is there a highlight of your time there that you would speak about in terms of show, event, somebody you met?
As much as I like every project I do, I think looking back on every project, whether it be House of Dancing Water or Expo, it's always the people for me. There's always, it's always the teams of people. People in entertainment are specific, and we all have our own quirks, and we're all weird in our own ways. And I think that's what I thrive off of being in this industry. And I'd say my friends that I met there on that project were what made it worth it.
And now a note from our sponsor. The Theatre Art Life podcast is proud to be sponsored by ClearCom. ClearCom is the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of ClearCom Intercom Solutions. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out.
And so you've done, you went through a mainland tour of China, and you went to Macau, and you've been in Dubai. Like, what did you learn after leaving the US about working internationally?
I've grown a lot over the past, 6 years, and I'm 29 now, almost 30 next week. And being abroad opened my eyes to so much more than just career opportunities, but it allowed me to see different cultures and history and different ways of doing things, and not just conforming to ways that, entertainment might be run in the US or personalities might be in the US. You learn to kind of be just open, and my flexibility, just wanting to understand people and giving people the time of day, and not rushing anything has been a real lesson learned there. And I also realized too that those places also aren't going anywhere. Just because you aren't working abroad doesn't mean you can't go visit either and still have a similar experience of getting to be immersed in culture and those things as well.
Interesting. And for those people who, like, what was your trajectory to leave the US? How did you get work abroad? What was your roadmap for that?
I don't even know if you know this story, Anna. This is funny.
I don't know the story. That's why I'm asking.
So actually years ago, Cavalia, which was a show that was founded by one of the Cirque du Soleil founders. It was pretty much a cirque show with a bunch of horses in it. They were all around the US. And I remember that the show was coming to San Diego, where I was born and went to high school. And when it was visiting San Diego, I was, 15. And I remember I went onto LinkedIn and somehow found the marketing manager for Cavalia on LinkedIn and wrote him and said, "Hey, I'm doing a report for school. I'd love to talk to your stage manager at the show. Can I meet with him?" He's like, "Heck no, you're not going to just talk to our stage manager at 15. But he accepted my request. And over the years, he saw me kind of getting experience in stage management. And then one day, I got a phone call randomly out of the blue from a Montreal number. And I thought it was maybe Cirque because I had done an internship with them before that. And it was the artistic director from Cavalia saying, "Hey, your resume was handed to us from our media director who has you on LinkedIn, and you have the experience that we need for someone to go on tour. Are you able to do it?" And then 2 weeks later, I had sold my apartment and my car and moved to China and got a visa like that. So that was just one of those random experiences of you never know who you're going to meet. I know we all say that, but it is true that these small connections you make. I've never even met the individual who passed on my resume. I've never met them in person. So it's just one of those things. Even LinkedIn can have a powerful impact on your career.
And inadvertently launched your international career. That is insane. That's an insane story.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think that's a great lesson for, putting yourself out there, right? And I think I always have a lot of admiration that people, and generally it's not, maybe it's a generational thing too, I don't know, but it's so important to, even for backstage people, to be able to sell themselves and market themselves to a certain extent to get work, I think. Do you agree?
Totally. I mean, it doesn't matter how old you are or how you're growing, just showing you have the initiative and interest in wanting to grow and expand. One cool thing I also did in high school, I haven't told you this either. I wrote out to Luc Lafortune. He was the lighting designer for House of Dancing Water. I sent him an email in high school and just was like, "I really want to do this." And he wrote me a long email back. Fast forward a few years later, I was show calling at House one night, and he sat behind me to watch the show. And I told him who I was, and he actually remembered the email. But you never know who you're going to reach out to, no matter what age. Even if you just express your interest and wanting to grow, I think that can go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally concur. And I think the other thing, if we're talking on that track, is making yourself accessible and contactable and reachable when people do reach out. There's a lot of times that I'll get CVs who people have applied for an international job and they've got their local number on it without an international calling code. I know it sounds a simple thing, but the little things make me do more work to get to you, right? And so knowing what the people who you're applying to are looking for and need automatically shows an understanding that you know what you're applying for. And I think it's huge. So yeah, it's one of my bugbears when people do that. I'm like, make it easy for me.
Yeah, I know. I get that.
That's awesome. So, of all the projects that you've done, is there a standout for you? Is there something that you want to do next? Tell us about where you feel like you are in your career right now.
It's interesting. I feel like I've kind of hit, my goal was wanting to work in Vegas on these big shows, and somehow without seeing it as a possibility, I ended up going abroad and then kind of realized that was something else that I wanted to do. So I feel like I'm not limiting myself to my dreams, I guess, if that makes sense, because I've seen how when opportunities fall in my lap, those can then become my dream, if that makes sense. I definitely like being at Expo, getting to kind of be not in charge, like I want to be a manager, but I just having a greater scope of a project rather than just one individual show itself. That's something I can see myself doing in the future, and kind of branching out into just maybe general management of, an entertainment company or a venue or something like that. But for now, I think just being content with and happy, I'm so happy to be in Vegas right now and to be working on a show and getting to do creation. That was something I never thought I'd be able to do. And people keep saying, these big shows like in Vegas is only going to be getting, celebrities now to perform their shows. To have the opportunity to actually do a big spectacle that they say aren't coming back, to have my hands in that has been a really cool opportunity. And you learn so much from getting to see creative minds come together like that, because what I saw during creation to what we have on stage now is a completely different product. And it just shows the evolution of how things can change so drastically, and kind of what you can do when you bring people together and you all have a common goal of a successful show. You just keep moving until you find the right elements that people want to see.
Yeah. I really like what you said there in terms of like not closing yourself to opportunities. I think that sometimes when you plan a particular linear trajectory, especially in this industry, you're going to be sorely disappointed, first of all. And also the second thing is that if you're on one track and you don't take those opportunities that come around, you lose huge learning experiences, like you for getting overseas and around, right? That make you an all-rounded stage manager. Do you feel like, I felt that when wouldn't feel like I was fully a stage manager until I was in my 30s. Do you feel like it's a long earned craft, being a great stage manager?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would say it is, because I've seen how, our PSM Phyllis and our GSM Jennifer, I still look up to them and want to learn from them. And the ways that they handle things are not the way that I would have done it, but I like the way they did it more, if that makes sense. So I'm still allowing myself to go, oh, that's a great way of thinking about that, or that's a great way to handle this problem, instead of just, doesn't mean I'm wrong, but it allows me to kind of still grow and mature in the way that I might handle things. But I'm so proud of what I've accomplished, and from high school theater up to now being in Las Vegas. That's pretty cool for me to look back. Like high school me would be, mind blown, and really proud of what he's done. And that goes to say too, quick shout out to my high school. I mean, even being able to do performing arts in high school, and starting young, if that's what you want to do, you kind of hear people around you saying, there's no career in that, and I was hearing that you're not going to make money doing this. And somehow I've managed to make my way as a stage manager and making a career off of it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's true. But, knowing you as a friend as well, like I think that what is really amazing about you, and I think the reason that you've had those successes thus far, is that you are naturally inquisitive and naturally enthusiastic and open to being adaptable. And I think those three traits are huge foundations for being able to throw yourself in a China tour or into Macau or into Expo and adapt. So I just wanted to mention that, because I think it is one of the foundations of you being able to get through all of those things that you have done thus far. And I mean, it's amazing to see how much you've already done, been around the world and all that. Tell me a little bit about, because you've done some work for Thinkwell Group. What was that?
That was a pretty short stint for me. I worked with Thinkwell back in LA. They had some good connections with my college. Cal Arts, for those of you who don't know, it was founded by Walt Disney back in the 60s. And there's a lot of themed entertainment connections with Thinkwell Group and with Disney and Universal kind of all filter out of our school. A lot of our professors, came from those companies or worked there. And that was an interesting thing. So 2 jobs I did right after college or during college, I was MTV and Thinkwell. And both of those things with Thinkwell, it was a very desk-oriented job, 9 to 5 at the desk all the time in meetings. And I realized from that, I loved the team. I had a great time there, but being at a desk all the time, I learned wasn't for me. And that goes also for MTV, getting to be at MTV and intern with them in the production management department for all of their series. I got to learn a lot of stuff and a lot of useful skills, from budgeting to, to simple catering and how these things work, and getting to expand my mindset. But through doing both of those shorter stint, jobs, I also learned that it wasn't something I wanted to keep pursuing, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that kind of finding these small jobs that you're like, hey, I don't know how this is going to go, but give it a shot. There's nothing wrong with trying something different, because you never know, it might be something that you actually love doing. Kind of like me with Expo, right? I did this Expo job where I wasn't show calling. I was sitting at a desk most of the time, but I got to manage shows from a greater standpoint that was actually happening with a live audience at the time. And, from that kind of made my brain go, hey, I actually enjoyed the way that felt. I enjoyed the responsibilities and the excitedness that came with that role. And now trying to find, maybe in the future, something that aligns more with that.
You mentioned that Thinkwell had connections with CalArts. Does that institution help you find placement, and how much do you credit the school being able to give you some foundations to get started?
I'd say, all of my internships that I got were all supported by the school. So that was MTV, Walking with Dinosaurs, Cirque du Soleil, were all because of, one, me applying to them. They weren't just handed to me, but the school also supported them for credit. I feel like when you're in a program, some people go, you don't need to go to school for stage management. You can just do it without that. But one benefit for me is it opened up a lot of these corporate internship opportunities that you only have, for the most part, if you're actually enrolled in school at the time. So that helped out. As far as career placement, some of my professors have become mentors and longtime friends that I talk to, every week still. And they've helped me navigate just questions I've had as I, find new jobs or future work opportunities or contract questions, right? And I think that, keeping those contacts you have from early on, they kind of get to see you grow, and they only want to see what's best for you. So the school, great support, but the mentors that I got out of that individually from my professors and students around me has been even more beneficial.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I always think of it, because there's so many great stage managers that haven't gone through an institution, and so many people that have. There's like, the rule book is not for this career. It's quite variable, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Like I said, the big benefit, it's expensive. That's the big downside for me.
You got to pay it off at some point.
Exactly. But the people that I met and the connections, and like I said, a lot of these, if you want to kind of stick with more of the corporate-y side of stuff, more, big entertainment, TV, the big companies, a lot of them for their internships, for the most part, require you to be enrolled in college at the time of your application.
Awesome. Well, we always finish the podcast with two of these questions, and you probably know them, and I think you've already answered the first one, but I'm going to ask you again. What do you like most about your job and the industry?
I'm going to go back to the people. Even this week, I'm going to say some of the performers, just, the jokes I have backstage. And there are days, multiple days a week, that I'm crying, laughing. I think getting to have laughter at any job is by far a very good quality that anybody should look for.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, even when things are difficult and you've got a tough project, if you've got a good team around you that you can make jokes about with, it keeps everything light, doesn't it?
Exactly. No, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely have that over here in Saudi Arabia right now.
It's all people.
And if you could change one thing about your job and the industry, what would it be?
One thing that sticks out to me lately, the past few years, is a lot of my friends are getting married and all their weddings are on Saturdays, and I'm always working on Saturdays. So I would just say a little bit more flexibility from jobs to understand that, getting to go see your friends get married or whatever comes your way is important. And the Wynn really has been supportive of that. I had to go home last weekend really quick, and they're fully supportive of things like that, which is great. And I want to see more of that in the industry, where people don't feel like, hey, if I'm not here, the show's not going to go on. That shouldn't be the case, right? You should always have something else that can keep the show running without you there for a night.
Yeah, which is a luxury to be had for longer running shows than something
totally.
that's a shorter project.
I totally agree.
Yeah, one of the sacrifices, but it is something that if you can incorporate it into the industry, it'd be a sweet relief for a lot of people, I think. And there was a lot of talk during the pandemic about that, because people got to stay at home a little bit more, right? And they were like, we want it to be more work-life balance, because I'm actually enjoying this home balance.
I know.
I know what this is like now, so yeah, it's an interesting thing that I guess it's like a yin and a yang of, you love the career so much, you're willing to, work all the time for it, but at the same time, you do need some time for yourself, and
exactly.
Yeah. Do you feel that you have that balance in Vegas?
I do. Especially with my deep friends, my real good friends are still here in the U.S. And that's been so nice to be close to home and getting to see my parents. My flights are $30 to go from here to San Diego. So my parents are loving to have me, go back and forth. So the balance, I'm definitely getting more of it now. I'm not getting to go to Bangkok or, Vietnam on the weekend, but I'm getting to go to San Diego and see my parents, which is also just as cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dillon, for being on the podcast. It's so good to see your face, and it was really good to get you on record about your work and life.
You too. And one quick thing for those of you listening, if you're interested about Awakening, go check out the Wynn's YouTube page. We have some really cool behind-the-scenes videos about the creation and the choreography and the stage and all of that you might find really interesting.
Amazing. I think I'll go do that myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thanks, Dillon.
Theater at Life is a global media site for entertainment. Memberships start at only $38 per year. You can have unlimited access to our daily published articles, including entertainment news and the writings of active industry professionals, ensuring that you are always up to date on the global happenings in the world of entertainment. Become a part of the international entertainment community and join us now at www.theaterartlife.com.